Right, Earthlings, welcome back to the Thundering Dicecast channel. Today, I'm going to be talking with you guys about Canadian politicians claiming that Trump's admin's 51st state rhetoric is in fact an act of war. We know Donald Trump has talked about wanting to annex Canada ever since the election, and tariffs have been put in place to encourage that, I suppose. But let's dive into this. Let's see what Trump has to say about the 51st state, Canada. Canadians have been are pushing back ever since he first said it, talking with Justin Trudeau shortly after the election. When he was proposing tariffs, he was in discussions with Trudeau, and Trudeau said, according to Trump, that, Canada won't be able to survive if America puts on these large tariffs, and therefore America should just subsume Canada as the 51st state. Well, let's see what Fox News has to say about this. So this is from their front page here, and if you can notice, 35 trackers from Fox News. That's not good. That means they're tracking 35 different little thingies that they're trying to pick up just from going onto this page. So let's start with Trump himself. He's going to talk with Laura Ingraham about this, and let's see if we can dissect this and combat some of that misinformation that he is inevitably going to spout.
Now more of my interview with President Trump. They have a $60 billion trade deficit. China has like a $300 billion last year. You said it goes up to, when you add it all up, it's $1 trillion.
Way over 100, Canada.
Okay, so first lie right there, that there is a, more than $100 billion trade deficit with Canada. So now let's not forget that the agreement that we live under in terms of trade between us and Canada was negotiated by Donald Trump in his first term. So whatever terms that he's complaining about, he set them. So let's get that out of the way first off. Second of all, as a net, we import more dollar value things from Canada than we export. That is true. However, if you remove crude oil from that picture, the United States is actually at a surplus, as in we send about $30 billion worth of goods and material to Canada, $30 billion more than we receive from them. So yes, we receive a lot of oil from them, crude oil, which goes to refineries in the United States, which is then refined, turned into petroleum products and gasoline and jet fuel and all that fun stuff. So to say that we are at a trade deficit is disingenuous at best and a flat out BS lie at worst. Let's continue.
Here's my problem with Canada. Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
Bullshit.
Because we subsidize Canada by $200 billion a year. We don't
subsidize Canada. We buy things from them. We trade with them. And they pay us money for our goods and services as well.
need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We have a lot of lumber.
We don't buy Canadian cars. We buy cars that are manufactured by American companies that are made in Canada at worst. Lumber is something that Canada has a lot more of than we do. They have a lot less population than the United States does. I think it's about 40 million in Canada and 370 million in the United States. And the great north, the great unexplored north, the tundra up there is full of lumber that can actually be harvested sustainably. Much more difficult to do it here in the States because we logged so heavily in the 19th century that and parts of Europe are having the same problem. We're trying to reconstitute some of our old growth forests again.
We freed it up, as you know, last week. We're freeing it up so that you can actually cut down a tree without being, given the death penalty.
Again, we're going to absurdities instead of actual policy. No one's getting the death penalty for cutting down a tree. However, we have to be smart about how we harvest trees because they take fucking years to grow. It's not like corn that you can plant and harvest in the same year. A tree takes decades to grow until it's mature enough to be used in lumber, in manufacturing, and in houses.
What these radical environmentalists have done to our country, but we freed it up. But we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We certainly don't want their automobiles. They make a lot of Millions of automobiles are sent in. I'd rather have them made in
here the
Michigan.
automobiles pop up.
I'd rather have them made in South Carolina or any one of our.
If the United States could make all of the cars in the US, it would. It's cheaper for these large corporations to do it outside. So if you're going to subsidize anything, subsidize domestic manufacturing. Give incentives for Ford and GM to make sure that the plants stay in America and the cars are built by Americans in America, and you solve this problem. But because it's cheaper or more economical for Ford and GM, because remember, they aren't beholden to you, Donald Trump, and they aren't necessarily beholden to the American people or their consumers. Technically, since they're publicly traded companies, they have a fiduciary duty to their stockholders, which means they have to create unlimited growth and unlimited earnings, which means that you have to continually find cheaper sources of labor and material. Hence, they come from outside the United States, because cheaper in Mexico, cheaper in China.
Tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st.
That is a great point.
Okay, but
we should be a lot
listen
more
to this
tough
for a
with
second.
we need their
Russia
territory.
or
They
North
have
Korea than we
territorial
are
advantage.
with
We're not going to let them
Canada.
get close to China.
Look,
right?
I deal with every country, indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that, now this was Trudeau, the people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau.
The nastiest people. Oh, Governor Trudeau, gosh. Well, Trudeau is now gone. We have a new prime minister. Mark Carney, less likely to want to work with Donald Trump. He received basically a mandate from the people that we do not want to follow in the footsteps of our southern cousins. About 85% of Canadians voted for the Liberal Party of Canada.
His people were nasty. And they weren't telling the truth. They never told the truth. You know that...
Oh, Canadians are often known as nasty people.
Well, they do. They charge tremendous. And
they don't charge tremendous, guys. We had these fair trade agreements with Canada, with Mexico, so that we had tariff-free trade. So it would promote economic cooperation between these border states, between Mexico and America, between America and Canada. It makes businesses happy when they don't have to worry about goods and services costing a bunch of more money as they come into the country where they're needed. This is anti-business right here. All these changes to his own free trade agreement, and pretending that we're subsidizing Canada, we're paying them $200 billion a year for, I don't know what he's saying this subsidy is for. But to say that we're doing it is laughable. It's ridiculous. We are trading goods and services. They have things that we need. We have things that they need. We don't charge tariffs so that these things can move freely and companies can maintain their profitability when exporting or importing from other markets.
If you look at dairy products, what they've done to our farmers, I'd go up to Iowa, I'd go up to different places, Nebraska, and they
you
would
went
always
up to
complain
Nebraska
about
because
Canada,
Nebraska's
how
a
they get ripped
border
off.
town
Do you know
now?
that Canada has a 250% tariff? 250. Nobody knows that.
Because it's
They
in response
charge
to
us
your
numbers
tariffs.
that are crazy.
But
we have a
what's the
very
end
big deficit with Canada, and
60
there's
billion.
no reason, much more. We have
Stop
much more.
lying.
I don't think so.
Just so you
Just
understand,
making shit
we
up.
subsidize
Call him
Canada.
out
And
on
I
that,
like
Laura.
Canada. I
Come on.
love Canada. I
But
love Wayne
now
Gretzky.
the liberal guy,
I love his wife.
The liberal
I love
party is going to win now.
The Liberal Party
in the
did
next
win.
election,
I don't
most
care.
likely. And they were
I don't care.
down and out.
I don't
Isn't that
care.
going to be make them?
Okay, that's about all Trump I can watch. The rest of this interview, I've watched it, continues in the same vein. He's bitching about Trudeau and the Democrats and Liberals screwing over his 51st state plans. But let's actually get into this 51st state stuff here. Here we go. A politician in Canada here has said that this 51st state nonsense is an act of war. And I think you could construe it as an act of war because you are infringing on the sovereignty and territorial rights and rights of self-determination of another country. And not a country you may say they should have been the 51st state. That's ridiculous. The last time we thought that we should annex Canada was in the early 19th century, specifically 1811, 1812, where the Canadian military, under the authority of the British monarchy, did descend onto Washington, D.C. and did ransack and burn the White House. It didn't go very well then. It's pretty clear Canada likes to be Canada. They like to be relatively independent. Yes, they have the Queen on their money, or the King, I should say, in 2025. They have the King on their money, but they are an independent sovereign nation who has very little to no interest in joining the United States. And the United States should have really no interest in annexing Canada. Canada is a massive territory. It is huge. There is one road that connects the East and the West. It lacks in infrastructure. It lacks in population. It lacks in industry. The population is generally aging. There are very few parts of Canada that are net positive economically. We would be consuming a territory that's far too large for the people in it, economically mediocre at best. There's not a lot of industry that would be subsuming, and all the people there, we would now be having to take care of them. You know, there's a lot of aging people who have never paid into Social Security who will qualify for Social Security benefits since they're now American citizens. I don't know how that would work out, what their dividends would be, how it would work with their pension programs that already exist in Canada. Most Canadians don't want to give up their universal health care for whatever nonsense we have in the United States. It's just a terrible idea for both parties, and it is aggressive to say we are going to subsume them. They should be the 51st state and that they should want it. This is just the kind of lead up to we need more room, we need their territory, we need security. This is all saber rattling. So I absolutely agree that it sounds like a ramp up to war. The president has made his argument as to why he thinks Canada would be better off joining the United States for economic purposes. Rubio said on March 14th when asked about Trump's 51st state comments, "There's a disagreement between the president's position and the position of the Canadian government. I don't think that's a mystery coming in, and it wasn't a topic of conversation because that's not what this summit was about." So here Rubio is even trying to slightly distance himself from actual 51st state comments. You know, this is not what we're talking about. This is not really going to be talked about at all. It matters to Canadians, though, because we're threatening them. So, guys, let's cool it on the 51st state nonsense. Canada is sovereign. We should not be punishing our neighbors for trading with us. We should not be punishing our neighbors for existing and having disagreements with us from a very, very political standpoint. The Canadians are our greatest allies. They fought with us in World War II. They fought with us in Afghanistan. They fought with us in Iraq. They've been great trading partners for decades and decades. We want to protect our friendships. We want to foster these good connections. We don't want to push people away. We sure as hell should not want to ramp up aggressive war-like rhetoric and describe them as the 51st state. They're only the 51st state in name in their minds until they actually put boots on the ground. People are not going to vote to join the United States from Canada. They don't want it. We shouldn't want it. This is all just crazy nonsense coming out of Trump once again. I can't even tell you what the end game for this would be because it would be bad for both countries. So what I'm trying to say here, guys, is let's stay sane. Let's foster the friendships and the economic cooperation that we have built over such a long time, and stay friendly and stay positive, because with so much going on, we've got to stay friends and keep our alliances close. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts about war with Canada and possibly Greenland are. Catch you next time.